Turkeys are just big pigeons. Amen. Let's eat. Holidays weren't my Uncle Lou's thing. And neither was saying grace, apparently. And don't call him Lewis, or you'll be in for a time of holiday unenjoyment. Back in those days, in my early teens, Arlene from the general store was always nice enough to invite my Uncle Lou and myself over for the Thanksgiving meal. My Uncle Lou always said she's a good old gal. She was. And her dinners were great. And I remember one time my Uncle Lou, as a way of saying thanks, crafted up some beautiful earrings for Arlene. Hard to believe a man of his disposition could craft up something so detailed and delicate. But being the contradiction he was, he did, and I saw him do it. Arlene loved those earrings. She wore them all the time, even when the future came. Around here, people call me Beebe. They call my Uncle Lou a character. We live in a small town. It's called Grandpa's Knob. It's a small place. Yeah, I mean, like one time my Uncle Lou got a haircut, whole town looked different. So I'm talking small. There's really no place to go, even if you got all day to get there. And it's a quiet place. My Uncle Lou says a good thing quiets the noise we like best. And you could argue the point, but there's nobody there to argue with. It's the kind of place where the past and the present stand side by side almost unnoticed, and not far from the only two parking meters. Hard place to find, too. Uncle Lou says they built the interstate 60 miles east of here on purpose. Bastards. He says it doesn't matter, though, because there's only two types of people in this world. Those that are lost and ask for directions, and those that are lost and don't. But either way, neither comes to Grandpa's Knob on purpose. But, being the way he is, having a heart ticking the way it does, he decided to help our lonely town out. And he went out and he erected a welcome sign out on the mountain road. It's still there, 40 years later. It reads, if you're lost and not getting anywhere, stop by, say hi, have some pie, and enjoy not getting there. Welcome to Grandpa's Knob. This ain't living. It's organized boredom. To know my Uncle Lou at all is to know that he did World War II. And he is not afraid to bring the subject up should you rile him. Well, he'll bring it up if you don't. He is not afraid to say what was done and what had to be done. And it is not a tale for the squeamish. No, sir. He say to me, Beebe, war is nastiness beyond the heart and soul. Knowing what a man can do and will do to another is more than most hearts can bear to know. Why, I wasn't much older than you. They sent me overseas. Stuck me down in those tunnels and caves. Told me to kill what was to be found. Gave me a pistol and a knife. Set me into the darkness. Booby traps, snakes, giant lizards, and little men down there with the same bad intentions I had. Maybe this here's a land of the free because of the brave. And don't you forget that, son. And then my Uncle Lou would go quiet, and he'd stare at the far away. I don't know what he saw. I really don't. He just stared. And I would sit and stare with him, keep him company. But I never saw anything except far away. And just so you know, my Uncle Lou's a tough old coot. He's not one of those feisty old timers that pretend he'll take a round out of you. My Uncle Lou will step up and drop you. He'll drop you right where you stand. He'll throw hands. Yeah. He's the kind of guy that people say, you know, baby, they don't make them like that anymore. And they don't. Who knows why? Maybe we don't need as many of the killing kind as we used to. He's built like a rectangle, but he's not fat. Oh, he's got a square head, and his neck is bigger than his head, and his shoulders are too wide, and his arms are longer than his legs, and his legs are these sort of chopped off moving tree trunks. Arlene says he reminds her of an upright gorilla, but less fur. But not much less fur. And then she'll laugh and laugh about it. Arlene likes my Uncle Lou for some reason, making her a support group of one. But when she's a little more serious, she'll tell me, Bibi, your uncle's an anachronism. He's from a different time and a different place, boy. Made a different way. He'd probably be more comfortable in one of those old Western movies than he is in this day and age. Peace and love just aren't on his menu, Bibi. For some reason, my Uncle Lou did a New Year's Eve toast every year. Same toast. He would toast it and himself over at Arlene's general store, which Arlene kept open on the eve for friends and family. He would grab a chair, get up on that chair, and then he'd gather us around. He'd yell out, "Gather around, all you chipmunks! Gather around, brethren! I got a toast to make." And we'd all semicircle around the chair, and there he'd be holding court. And I recall that toast. It went something like that. Do what you want to do, when you want to do it. Because I've never met an old man who didn't say life was too short. Do I have an amen? Amen, we would all yell. Never bring harm to another with your own foolishness. Do I have an amen? Amen. Yeah, you bring no harm to anyone with your own foolishness, lest they ask for it. And by God, they will. And when they do, you best come down hard or don't bother coming down. Because half-assed ain't half good. Almost killed ain't dead. Do I have an amen? Amen. Lastly, brethren, be glad you did what you did when you did it. I am. Here's to me. Do I have an amen? Amen, we yelled. And then we'd kiss and hug and bring in the New Year's. And Uncle Lou would wink over at Arlene, and she would fill his glass with some of her magic coffee. I know he was gruff, tough, mostly ornery. But he'd give me the shirt off his back and had. So I knew there was a light in him somewhere. In each generation in a small town, they produce someone like my Uncle Lou, a guy that won't take crap from anybody, anywhere. But a small town also produces a loudmouth bully and his gaggle of henchmen. And the fisticuffs and ensuing butting of heads between the two archetypes is the stuff of legend. I remember this one time. My Uncle Lou thrashed this kid from my high school. Oh, this kid thought he was the toughest SOB on the planet Earth, don't you know? Oh, geez, he's mouthing off. He's a man boy, 18, full grown, thinking he's king of the hill, being disrespectful to some of the sophomore girls, doing what bullies do. making us feel bad about ourselves. Like we need any help. Well, those little girls seem more than a bit scared. That old braying Billy Goat. So my Uncle Lou steps in, calls them out. They face off. Uncle Lou wades in, and he bopped that kid right on the top of the head. Not a punch exactly, not a karate chop, just his big meaty fist down on the top of that bully's head. That Billy didn't know what hit him. His eyes roll up in his head like a slot machine. Yeah, he's reeling around. And of course he was running his mouth at the same time the fist came down, so he bit off a piece of his tongue. He got like a little blood coming out inside. Looks like some sort of dizzy dancing Dracula. Right? He's trying to grab hold of something to right himself. And he's trying to get hold, but his depth perception's off. So he's like this, and then he goes down. Hard. My Uncle Lou casually walks over, steps on the kid's throat. Uncle Lou always wore work boots with treads. You never seen cowardice come to a face so fast in all your life. No, sir. He squeezed down just a little bit on that rascal. He says, I'd like to hear an apology to those young ladies. And that bullying Billy Goat starts gurgling out, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. Geez, I'm sorry, I was only playing. Uncle Lou stepped down just a little further and says, I don't like the way you play. Then he stared that kid down hard for like 20 seconds. Like whether he's trying to figure out whether or not he's going to crush that kid's throat. The situation was touch and go. But then he backed off. He said, son, I hope you got memory, because you got lessons to be learned. And then he helped the kid up. Then Uncle Lou turns to the crowd and says, who next? Now the henchman sort of sidled away as henchmen do when they go and get stuff. Nobody likes to get hit, right? It hurts. Uncle Lou turns back, he looks at me and the bully. He says, you never depend on help from anyone. You never take on what you can't handle. You never start something you can't finish, boy. Because if help comes, it comes too late. Like the Red Cross after the hurricane. Later on that day, I asked my Uncle Lou, how come you weren't afraid of that bully? He seemed mean, seemed brave. Sure, it was full of bad intention. But Uncle Lou explained it like this. I stood up, most died for the things I believed in. Until he's done that, he's just talking tough. And talking tough ain't being tough, baby. You remember that. Some years later, my Uncle Lou passed. Arlene and I had a service for him at the Stone Church. Arlene wore the earrings. Even the bully showed up with his wife and 2 daughters. Maybe a lesson was learned on that long ago day. The church was quiet. There was light through colored window resting on the marbled altar. The old wooden pews were polished to a shine by the fannies of saints and sinners alike. And it was then in the corner by the holy water I saw forever waiting for us all as we march our own paths towards eternity, armed with our memories, those days from where it is we come. Days once known, once lived, still loved. Do I have an amen?